Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join the Prime Minister in wishing everyone a very happy St Andrew's Day, wherever they're celebrating it all around the world? Last week, Mr. Speaker, the autumn statement revealed the abject failure of this government's economic strategy. Economic growth was revised down, wage growth was revised down, business investment was revised down, borrowing and debt revised up yet again. Surely now the Prime Minister accepts her predecessor's long-term economic plan was actually a failure.
I'll give the right honourable gentleman some facts. The IMF says that this will be the fastest growing advanced economy in the world this year. Unemployment is down. We have record numbers of people in employment, and we have companies like Nissan, Jaguar Land Rover, Honda, Arm, Google, Facebook, Apple investing in the UK, securing jobs here in the United Kingdom. That's what a good economic plan does.
They did tell us that the deficit would be eradicated by 2015. This was then advanced to 2020, and now it's been advanced to whenever in the future. But since she quotes the Institute of Fiscal Studies, I think she's been a little bit selective, because they also went on to say that the prospect for workers over the next 6 years was, and I quote, dreadful, and went on to say, creating, and I quote, the worst decade for living standards since the last war, and probably since the 1920s. Isn't it fair to say that those just getting by are suffering all the pain for no gain?
Prime Minister!
I have to say to the right honourable gentleman, I think given that he can't differentiate between the IMF and the IFF, it's probably a good job he's sitting there and I'm standing here. Let me tell him what we are doing for those people, and let's think about those people who do find life difficult, who are struggling to get by, who have a job but worry about their job security, who have a home but worry about paying the mortgage and are worried about their children's education and whether their children will be able to buy a home. What are the measures we've been doing? We've increased the national living wage. We introduced the national living wage. We're increasing personal tax allowance, taking more people out of paying tax altogether. We're increasing the number of affordable homes being built. But we can only do this if we have a strong economy, and it's our plan that delivers that strong economy.
Mr. Speaker, wages have stagnated, home ownership is falling, homelessness has doubled, and queues at food banks are rising every day. If the Prime Minister really believes the economy is doing well, why is her government forcing through £2 billion of cuts in in-work support, cutting the incomes of working people, leaving many households over £2,000 per year worse off?
Prime Minister! He starts his question by talking about home ownership. Let's be very clear what's happening in terms of housing. House building starts fell by 45% under Labour in 12 years. They have increased by over two-thirds since the Conservatives were in government. Yes, we are making changes to the welfare system. He and I have a fundamental difference of opinion about the welfare system. I think what is important in the welfare system is that we remember those who are benefiting from it, and we remember those who are paying for it. The universal credit system is there to ensure that people, that work will always pay for people. I believe in a welfare system that does help people to get into work, that does encourage people into the workplace. He believes in a welfare system where people are able to live on benefits.
Speaker, the last Labour government took 800,000 children out of poverty. Under her government, child poverty is rising and now covers 4 million children across this country. Our people are suffering because of the policies of her government. People are paying the price for her failed economic experiment. They've even now abandoned the previous Chancellor's pledge for their so-called national living wage, paying at least £9 per hour by 2020. What is the new pledge on living wage?
Prime Minister.
The pledge on living wage was set out in the autumn statement and is as it always has been. But he talks about poverty. He talks about poverty. Actually, we are seeing fewer families in absolute poverty and fewer families in relative poverty. And I come back to the point I've been making in answer to his previous questions. It is only possible to do these things by having a strong economy. The one thing we know is that the policy that would not deliver a strong economy is Labour's policy to increase borrowing by £500 billion. Increase borrowing by £500 billion. He talks about the impact of people in work. Let me remind him what the former shadow Treasury Minister said. Labour's policy to increase borrowing would lead to double the income tax, double council tax, double VAT and double national insurance. That won't help anybody who's in the workplace and just about manage it.
Entirely sure where the government's credibility lies on borrowing, since they're borrowing even more. The deficit is increasing and people are suffering. When she talks about children in poverty in response to my question, I simply remind her 4 million children living in poverty, children going hungry to school in this country because their parents don't have enough money to feed them properly. It is a disgrace and should be addressed. Mr. Speaker, in the autumn statement last week, the Chancellor spoke for over 50 minutes. During that time, he didn't once mention the National Health Service or social care. 1.2 million people are lacking the care they need. Why was there not one single penny more for social care in the autumn statement?
Prime Minister.
There is absolutely no doubt that the social care system is under pressure. We recognise that. If you just look at the fact that there are 1 million more people aged over 65 today than there were in 2010, we see the sort of pressures on the social care system. But that's why the government has already acted to put more money into the social care system. More money through the Better Care Fund, 3.5 billion extra through the Better Care Fund, and more money through the social care precept. But it's also important that local authorities and the NHS work together to ensure, for example, that people have the social care they need so they're not ending up blocking beds in hospital. There's some very good practice up and down the country, and sadly there's some not so good practice. What we need to do is make sure everybody is giving the best possible service to people who need it.
Jeremy Corbyn.
There's a tragic parallel going on between an underfunded NHS and an underfunded social care system all over the country. And she knows it, and indeed she might care to listen to the Tory leader of Warwickshire Council, Izzy Seacombe, who says that her council has been cut to the bone and says on social care, right now we have a 1.3 billion gap which is not being funded. It is a real crisis in every social services department all over the country and indeed in almost every NHS hospital. Next year, Mr. Speaker, this government is handing back £605 million in corporation tax cuts, rising to £1.6 billion the year after that, and £7.5 billion over the next 5 years. So could the Prime Minister explain to the more than 1 million elderly people not getting the care they need, to the 4 million on NHS waiting lists, to the millions of pensioners worried about losing the protection of the triple lock, why there is not 1 penny extra for the NHS or social care? Just what is this government's real sense of priorities?
Prime Minister.
The Right Honourable Gentleman talks about funding social care and funding the National Health Service. £3.8 billion extra is going into the National Health Service this year. Under Labour's plans, we would have seen £1.3 billion less going into the National Health Service. Social care funding is going up under this government. At the last election, the shadow chancellor lately of Strictly fame, said local authorities would get not a penny more. Conservatives putting money into the NHS and social care, Labour would deny it.
Thanks, Robertson. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A very happy St Andrew's Day to everybody celebrating in Scotland and around the world. Mr. Speaker, there is literally nothing to celebrate about the humanitarian catastrophe befalling the people of Syria at this time. The situation in the besieged city of Aleppo is described as being so bad that it could be one of the biggest massacres of civilian population since World War II. What can the UK and the international community do to end the suffering of the people of Syria? Prime Minister.
The Right Honourable Gentleman is right to draw attention to the appalling situation that is taking place in Syria, and particularly the indiscriminate attacks that we see on civilians in Aleppo. The United Kingdom has been working with France to bring forward an emergency discussion on this issue at the UN Security Council. That will take place later today. We want to see a cessation of hostilities. We want to see an opportunity for aid, humanitarian aid, to have access to Aleppo, and we will be pressing for that at the Security Council.
Thank you, Robertson.
Speaker, it is extremely welcome that the discussions are taking place in the United Nations, and we wish success to all of those who are supporting a humanitarian solution to the crisis there. However, things are so bad that the agencies are saying that in Aleppo the situation is so bad that it is descending into hell. Time is absolutely of the essence. I know the Prime Minister is seized of this matter. We are in agreement. Please can I appeal to her? Can absolutely everything be done now to alleviate the situation of the poor people of Aleppo and of Syria?
Well,
Minister.
The Right Honourable Gentleman is right about the horrific situation that exists in Aleppo. I can assure him that the government is pressing hard, is doing everything that we can in relation to this. We have consistently looked at what might be the possible solutions to see if there are other avenues that we can press for. I think the Security Council debate is very important, and there's an important message to send to Russia, that they actually use their influence with the Assad regime to stop these appalling atrocities in Aleppo and let humanitarian aid through.
Fiona Bruce.